We begin with a name now forever tied to one of Birmingham, Alabama's most heartbreaking cases. A woman who, in a single moment, turned a family celebration into a crime scene. Her name is Shatice Ranae Jackson, and her story is one of love, conflict, and a deadly decision that would leave a father dead and a family shattered forever. Easter Sunday, April 2025. In a quiet neighborhood on Lisa Lane in Birmingham, Alabama, families gathered to celebrate. It was a day meant for family, healing, and togetherness. But before the sun would set, that same street would become the scene of a tragedy that would shock the entire community. At the center of it all were two people who once loved each other deeply: Shatice Ranae Jackson and Mikese James Bostic. Their relationship had a history. They shared children together. They shared memories. And like many couples, they shared struggles. But on that Easter Sunday, everything reached a breaking point. Mikese Bostic, 27, was known as a hard-working man. He was employed as a juvenile detention officer just over 8 years, someone trusted with supervising young people in custody. His job required patience, discipline, and strength. To his family, he was more than his profession. He was a father. He was someone who showed up for his kids. But like many relationships, his relationship with Shatice Jackson was complicated. Shatice Ranae Jackson, 30, was his partner and the mother of at least 2 of his children. Like many couples, their relationship had its share of tensions and difficulties. Whether those tensions had been building for weeks, months, or years, no one outside their inner circle could say for certain. At some point during the gathering, the two became involved in a heated argument. No one knows exactly what words were said. Neighbors and partygoers noticed the escalating dispute, and at some point, someone made the call to police. Officers arrived at the scene on Lisa Lane, assessed the situation, and determined that nothing criminal had occurred at that point. Police departed, and Jackson left the scene. For a moment, it may have seemed like the worst had passed. But Jackson came back, and what happened next shocked everyone. Witnesses said Shatice drove her vehicle toward Mikese. The vehicle struck him and pinned him against the house. Children were present. Emergency services were called immediately. But the injuries Mikese suffered were too severe. He died at the scene. Just hours earlier, he had been alive, celebrating Easter with his family. Now, he is gone. Police arrived quickly. They secured the scene and began interviewing witnesses. It didn't take long for investigators to identify Shatice Jackson as the driver. She was arrested and taken into custody. The charge was serious: capital murder. The presence of children during the commission of a homicide is what elevated the charges against Jackson from murder to capital murder. Capital murder is one of the most severe charges someone can face. In Alabama, a capital murder conviction can lead to life in prison without parole, or even the death penalty. Shatice Jackson was booked into the Jefferson County Jail. Her life, too, had changed forever. News of the incident spread quickly throughout Birmingham. People were shocked that something like this could happen during a family celebration. Loved ones mourned Mikese's loss. During an early court appearance, observers noted that Shatice Ranae Jackson was seen smiling and laughing while in the courtroom. That detail drew strong reactions online and in the local community, especially given the seriousness of the charge she was facing in connection to the death of Mikese James Bostic. As of early 2026, Shatice Ranae Jackson remains in Jefferson County Jail, awaiting the progression of her case through the Alabama court system. The story of children who lost everything in a single night. That may be the most important one of all. In the end, a single moment turned a heated argument into a permanent tragedy. Our next most deadliest woman was a loving wife on the outside, but hiding a dark secret. When her husband discovered her fraud, she made a chilling decision to silence him and protect her lies. Her name was Natalie Cochran. Natalie Cochran looked like the perfect wife. She lived in a quiet neighborhood in Raleigh County, West Virginia, with her husband, Michael Cochran, and their children. They lived what appeared to be a normal American life. But behind closed doors, Natalie was living a lie. A lie built on deception, greed, and eventually, murder. Natalie wasn't just a housewife. She presented herself as a successful businesswoman. From 2017 to 2019, Natalie ran a company called Tactical Solutions Group, which she claimed focused on bidding for US government weapons and goods contracts. People began investing money with Natalie, believing they would receive huge returns. Some gave their savings, others gave retirement funds. A few even borrowed money just to invest in her opportunities. But there was one problem. None of it was real. Natalie was running a Ponzi scheme. She wasn't investing the money. She was spending it on herself, on her lifestyle, and on maintaining the illusion of success. To keep the scheme alive, she needed more money. And to keep the money flowing, she needed everyone to believe her, including her husband. At first, Michael supported his wife. He believed in her business. He trusted her completely. But over time, things stopped making sense. Money was coming in, but there were no real businesses behind it. Investors began asking questions. The pressure started building. And slowly, Michael began to realize the truth. Natalie wasn't running a successful company. She was stealing. Michael confronted her. He knew something was very wrong. He knew their entire life was built on fraud, and he wasn't willing to stay silent. He wanted answers. He wanted the truth. And that made him dangerous. Because if Michael exposed her, everything would collapse. Natalie had two choices: confess or eliminate the threat. She chose the second option. In early 2019, Michael suddenly became very sick. He felt weak and confused. His body began shutting down. His family didn't understand what was happening. He had been healthy. There was no warning. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors were confused. His symptoms didn't match any clear illness. His blood sugar levels were dangerously low, something usually seen in diabetic patients who take insulin. But Michael wasn't diabetic. It made no sense. While he lay in the hospital, Natalie stayed by his side. She appeared to be the caring wife. But behind that concerned face was a terrifying truth. She was the cause of his suffering. Investigators later discovered that Natalie had been secretly injecting Michael with insulin. Insulin lowers blood sugar. In diabetics, it saves lives. In healthy people, it can kill. Too much insulin causes hypoglycemia, a dangerous drop in blood sugar that can lead to confusion, seizures, organ failure, and death. Michael's condition worsened. His body couldn't recover, and on February 2019, Michael Cochran was pronounced dead. His death was sudden and shocking. And at first, no one suspected murder. After Michael's death, Natalie appeared to grieve like any widow. She believed she had gotten away with everything. But she was wrong. Because investigators had begun taking a closer look, not just at Michael's death, but at Natalie herself. Authorities started investigating Natalie's finances. They discovered millions of dollars missing. Over $2 million stolen from victims. Her entire business was fake. She was arrested and charged with federal fraud. At first, the charges were only financial. But then investigators uncovered something far more disturbing in the medical record. They found proof that Michael's death wasn't natural. It was insulin poisoning. She wasn't just a fraudster. She was a killer. Natalie Cochran was arrested again, this time for murder. The woman who once appeared to be a loving wife was now facing life in prison. Her calm, controlled life began collapsing. Victims came forward. Friends testified. Experts explained how insulin had killed Michael. Prosecutors revealed the motive clearly. Michael knew the truth. He could expose her fraud. He could destroy everything she had built. So she killed him. Not in anger, not in self-defense, but in cold, calculated silence. During the trial, Natalie maintained her composure. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence. This wasn't a mistake. This was murder. In 2021, Natalie Cochran was found guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In the end, her lies cost her everything. The woman who once appeared to be a devoted wife was exposed as someone willing to destroy the person closest to her just to protect her secrets. Natalie Cochran will now spend the rest of her life in prison, a reminder that the truth always finds its way to the surface. Our next most deadliest woman was a gifted ballerina, celebrated for her talent and elegance. but her seemingly perfect life hid a marriage full of conflict and tension that would shock everyone. Her name was Ashley Benefield. She was young and passionate about ballet, but behind the graceful image of a ballerina was a marriage unraveling in ways few could have predicted. And on September 27, 2020, that marriage would end with a single gunshot. Ashley met Douglas Benefield in 2016. Douglas was not a young man chasing dreams. He was 54 years old, a former U.S. Navy veteran, experienced, confident, and established. Ashley was just 24. Nearly a 30-year age gap separated them. Despite that, their connection formed quickly. Douglas was reportedly charming and supportive. Ashley was ambitious and passionate about ballet. Together, they shared a dream of creating something unique. They co-founded the American National Ballet. It wasn't just a business, it was their shared future. Within a short time of meeting, they married in 2017. To outsiders, it seemed like a whirlwind romance. But behind closed doors, cracks were already forming. Relationship quickly became unstable. Arguments became frequent. Trust broke down. Both accused each other of manipulation and emotional harm. Ashley would later accuse Douglas of being controlling and abusive. She claimed she lived in fear, saying his behavior was unpredictable and frightening. Douglas, on the other hand, denied these accusations. By 2019, their marriage was effectively over, and Ashley was pregnant with their daughter. They separated, but their lives remained deeply connected. Through legal battles, custody disputes, and unresolved anger, the tension didn't disappear. It grew. On September 27, 2020, Douglas came to Ashley's residence in Florida. He was there to discuss matters related to their child and ongoing disputes. What exactly happened inside that house would later become the center of a courtroom battle. Ashley said an argument broke out. She claimed Douglas became aggressive. She said she feared for her safety. She retrieved a gun. Moments later, she fired. The bullet struck Douglas. He collapsed. Ashley proceeded to call 911. When police arrived, Douglas Benefield tragically lost his life. Ashley admitted she shot him, but she insisted she had no choice. Police began investigating immediately. There was no sign of forced entry, no clear evidence of a violent struggle in the room. Ashley was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Prosecutors believed the shooting was intentional. They argued Ashley was not acting out of fear, but out of anger, resentment, or control. Ashley maintained her innocence. She said she was a victim who had finally reached her breaking point. The case quickly drew national attention. The image of a ballerina accused of killing her husband was both shocking and disturbing. She said she believed Douglas was capable of hurting her. She said in that moment, she thought she might die. The courtroom listened closely. Everything depended on whether the jury believed her fear was real and justified. After hearing all the evidence, the jury reached a decision. Ashley Benefield was found not guilty of second-degree murder, but she was found guilty of manslaughter. She was then sentenced to 20 years in prison. After prison, she must also serve 10 years of probation. This meant the jury believed she caused Douglas's death unlawfully, but did not have the intent required for murder. It was a partial victory and a devastating loss at the same time. Ashley showed emotion in court as the verdict was read. Her life, as she knew it, was permanently changed. The case left behind deep questions. Was Ashley truly afraid for her life? Or did fear and anger mix into a moment of irreversible decision? One fact remained undeniable. Douglas Benefield was dead, and Ashley Benefield would forever be known not as a ballerina, but as the woman who shot her husband. These women remind us that danger and darkness can sometimes hide behind familiar faces. From obsession and betrayal to fear and desperation, their stories show how love, trust, and ambition can take a deadly turn. This is just the beginning. In Part 2, we'll dive even deeper into the lives of more deadly women whose crimes shocked the world. Make sure you subscribe and like this video so you don't miss what's coming next. You won't believe the stories we have in store. See you.